right, thanks for everybody being here. Kind of keep this short and brief this week since we got basketball coming in here. I know you'll have a lot of questions for them, so I'll be short and to the point. And again, like always, not going to talk about last week unless you guys have questions about it, then I'll answer it. We got FIU this week. They started out 0-4. They made a coaching change, and I have a lot of respect for Ron Turner, the coach who was there, and what he's done with that program and building it and changing the culture of the FIU team there, and just he did a wonderful job. And then Ron Cooper, who's now the interim head coach. Ron and I coached together for a year at South Carolina, so I've known him for a long time, and he's an excellent football coach. You look at their team right now, the first 4 weeks, they were probably averaging 2 touchdowns a game. Now they're up to probably 28, 29 points a game. Defensively, they were giving up, in the 30s. Now the last 4 weeks, they're holding people in the 20s and the high teens. So there's probably a 2 touchdown difference offensively, and then a 2 touchdown difference scoring-wise defensively. So the team's really improved. They're 3-1 in the conference. They're ahead of us in the conference, so we're chasing them. A typical Florida team. They're very athletic. They're very fast. They're long. A lot of really good athletes on the football team. They got a quarterback now, just set their all-time touchdown passing record for career touchdowns at 43. He's a 3-year starter, played a bunch of games. I think he throws the ball really well. Have a lot of respect for him. They've got good receivers. Their backs are good. Defensively, they'll base out of a 4-man front, but third downs they'll get into some 3-man front packages, but everybody's doing that, so it's not that uncommon. Their linebackers, I think, are really good. Defensive end, number 7's a really good player, and then their corners, their secondary can run, they're athletic, so it's a good team. Special teams, Kirk Dahl's their special teams coordinator, been in the NFL, been around a long time, have a lot of respect for what he does in the kicking game, so we've got to be very sound there. Steve Shankweiler, who's now the offensive coordinator, calling plays. He and I coached together at South Carolina as well, and I've known him for a long time, and a lot of respect for the job that he does. So we're going to get this will be a really good challenge for us. They're a good football team. They're fighting for bowl eligibility as well. And, so every game now that you get this part of the season, the magnitude of each game intensifies. So this is a critical game. We've got to get ready to play a good football team. As always, going on the road's difficult. So we've got to be prepared for that as well. So look at us improving this week, having a great week of practice and getting ready to play a good FIU football team.
Ranked towards the top in several offensive categories when it comes to national rankings. Tell us how you guys have been able to maintain, how you guys have been able to maintain that production even with guys missing throughout these first 7 games.
Well, it's a credit to our players. We've got good players. It's a credit to our coaches. We've got good coaches. Our players work extremely hard at practice every day to improve. We talk about all the time, don't relax, don't ever get comfortable, and our players have done that. So offensively, like I said, we've got good players. The guys that are playing are good players. The ones that are playing that haven't played much are continuing to improve and are getting better each week. So it's just a credit to our players and our coaches and how we approach each day of practice.
Coach, after that heartbreaking loss to WKU, how big is it to go on the road against a Power 5 opponent and come away with a win?
It was great to get a win, to get the taste of that loss out of your mouth. And, it didn't matter if it was, Missouri or, you've already played Alabama A&M, just to win, to know that the work that you put in leading up to that game, because you work awful hard as players and coaches. So extremely gratifying and satisfying to get that taste out of our mouth. And, for our players to experience the joy of doing something that nobody thought you could do, going on the road and beating an SEC team. Nobody thought you could do that. And for them to prove people wrong and to have that experience and have that elation in the locker room, that joy will carry with them for a long time, and they'll remember it the rest of their life. But to me, it was good to get a win, just to get that nasty losing taste out of your mouth.
Coach, FIU has a linebacker tied for the conference high with 81 tackles. How do you limit his effectiveness back there? He has a great nose for the ball.
He's a good player. He's very active. He runs. He's physical, and he's going to make plays. Just got to do a good job, in our run game schemes, blocking schemes, our pass protection when he brings pressure. We've got to do a good job, but he's going to make his plays, and, we're not going to run away from him to avoid him. We're not going to run to him, to anything like that. We're going to run what we do what we do offensively, and hope that our technique and fundamentals will enable us to have success because he's a good player.
Coach, can you tell me about how, this offensive line didn't give up a sack against Missouri. We talk about it each week. How much did that experience of going up against that Missouri defensive line really prepare you guys for the rest of the season? They're I think they've given up 4 sacks total on the year, and they're one of the best in the nation. Describe what you're seeing so far through 7 games.
Well, like I've always said, there's a lot of people involved in protection. Our offensive line has done a great job. Rick Mallory and Mike Polly have done a great job coaching those guys up there, and then all those guys that are playing in the offensive line have done a great job. They take great pride in keeping your quarterback upright. That's important to them. They care. They compete. They work. So they've done a great job. And then the other people involved, our backs have done a good job in protection. Brent's done a good job, of avoiding sacks, getting the ball out, not taking unnecessary sacks by throwing the ball away. So there are a lot of people involved, but I think our offensive line has done a wonderful job.
Coach, I might not remember this correctly, but I think last season was the second to last game that you reached bowl eligibility. Much earlier in the season this year, you stand a chance to achieve that. Does achieving bowl eligibility earlier in the season have any impact on the rest of the schedule?
No, sir. I hadn't even talked about bowl eligibility. We're trying to get to 6. We're trying to win this week, and we've sat at home with 8. So I don't. We're going to play out this whole year, and I don't ever. I don't think about all that stuff. That has no. I can't control that. Like I said, they may not pick us, so we got to go try to win this week, and then worry about getting a win next week and the following week, and finish out this season. So it's good that I'm proud of where we are right now, but bowl eligibility is not on the top of my priority list this week.
Coach, when you face a team that's gone through a coaching change, sometimes that first week or so after they make a change can be a little unnerving, I guess, when it comes to scouting, and are they going to change anything? What have you seen? Has FIU changed anything of what they were doing or the way they go about things as opposed to what they did in the first 3 games? Or was their schedule just so heavy loaded on the front end hard to tell?
Well, I think the big thing, Chip, is when you make a change, you go through spring practice, you go through the summer, you go through August, you go through the first 4 weeks of your season, and then you make a change after the 4th game. You're not going to change philosophically what you've been doing for that amount of time. So I think the change, defensively, they're still doing what they have done all year. Offensively, schematically, they're doing the same things, probably a little bit more, probably throwing the ball, probably getting a little bit more spread sets, open sets, 4 wide sets than they did, the first 4 games of the year. But their basic philosophical plan, hasn't changed. They're still doing that. Probably just, formationally, they're spreading you out a little bit more than what they did early in the year.
FIU ranks towards the bottom of the conference in covering kicks and punts. How do you guys be effective in exploit that?
Well, there's a fine line in there that you look at kickoff return. We're very average ourselves there. But there's not much of a difference. There's a yard, a half a yard. There's a small yardage percentage on kickoff coverage and where you rank on that. So they've got great speed covering the kicks. The thing we have to do in the kicking game is we have to be sound. We have to do we've done a really good job as of late. We haven't had penalties in the kicking game. We haven't had, poor decision making in the kicking game. So to me, it's an opportunity, for us to continue to improve in those areas in what we're doing, not so much of what we're going to see from them, because what we're going to see is what we've seen all year. We've just got to continue to make better decisions in what we do with the ball when the ball is kicked. And I think that's how we can be effective in the kicking game.
Compared to the way maybe like a basketball player gets on a hot shooting streak, does Coach Franklin kind of get on like hot streaks calling plays sometimes where everything he calls just seems to work almost?
Well, and I'm a firm believer in this. When plays work, you got good players executed. You can call a bad play, and because you got a good player or the player just made a play, makes it look like a great call. And, but Tony's an excellent play caller, does a great job, but I agree that, as a play caller, you try to get in a rhythm, and you get in a rhythm when your players execute at a high level because you gain confidence to call that play. You got confidence to call the next play based on what your players are doing and what the defense, the scheme that you're facing, how they're responding to that play. And you look at us, our run game's pretty simple. We don't run a whole bunch of different running plays. So that adds to the simplicity of getting in a rhythm.
With the substitution rules as they are, was that one of the more difficult games of getting in defensive substitutions that you've been a part of?
Yeah, I thought the La Tech game, I thought Skip does a great job there with the tempo of his offense. But we didn't have the issues against them that we had against Missouri. Missouri is as fast as any team that I've ever competed against, any place I've been. Their tempo was excellent, and they caught us a couple times. It limited some of the packages that we were doing, especially on third down, because we couldn't substitute. We couldn't get them in fast enough, get them off fast enough. So give them credit. They were really good with their scheme and the tempo that they ran and made it difficult for us.
Is it harder after Western Kentucky, you guys were able to respond with a big win? Is it harder to respond after a big win now?
I don't think so. It's and that's just that's the maturity and the mental toughness that your players, your team has to have. And we talked about it Sunday after the Western Kentucky game that there's nothing you can do about it. You got to go out and put it behind you and get better and improve on where you made mistakes. And the same as yesterday, enjoy it. You had a great experience, a great game, but now you're not going to get any extra points. They're not letting you carry any points over from Missouri to FIU, so you got to put it behind you. And our team has always done that. I don't have any reservations, any questions, any doubts that our team won't respond in a positive way because we don't talk about it. We discussed the game yesterday and went out and practiced and got ready for FIU last night. So I don't think it'll be any lingering effects whatsoever. Good. I appreciate you guys, and have a great week.